This is a presentation from the Supernaut Network.
Now, podcasting from their secret subterranean location, Kyle Fulton.
Shut up! Shut your goddamn mouth!
DJ Jack Random.
Take him to Detroit. No! No, not Detroit! No!
It's the Supernauts.
Fat boys are back, and you know they can never be whacked. The fat boys are back. Do you like the fat boys?
Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome to Jack Random's, well, let's call this Jack Random's Robot Overlord Reboot. And we'll tell you the reason for the name as the show goes on. And joining me as usual is my persnickety podcast partner, Kyle Fulton.
Hey, Jack, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I can't complain. And joining us once again is our semi-permanent guest, writer and collector of obscure nerd paraphernalia, Mr. Jamill Payne. How's it going, Jamill?
I'm doing fine, Jack. How are you?
I am doing great. And our returning champion, a man who possesses a prototype Wayne Tech sonic wave emitter that enables users to summon hordes of bats. He's our random show British correspondent, the Viscount L. Van Lawn.
Hello, gentlemen.
Al? Hello. Where are you keeping that sonic bat sound emitter?
Well, at the moment, it's just tucked in into the top of my socks. On my right sock at the moment.
I thought the standard placement was the boot heel.
Yeah, I can't cut into my boots at the moment, but but it's just inside my socks, and when I need it, it does make me almost invincible. So, yeah.
There's been a lot of Batman Begins talk, which is why I was reminded of the sonic device that summons the bats.
I love that gadget.
It's a fantastic gadget.
It makes no sense, but whatever.
Whoa, Jamil, don't say that. That's not correct. It's one of Frank Miller's greatest inventions on the comic book page.
I love it. I'm just saying, just one of those comic booky things you just gotta go with.
He probably killed so many bats on the way down.
Probably.
Well,
and once he turns it off, what do the bats do?
Presumably leave.
Then they find themselves lost. Like, I don't remember skyscrapers.
The funny thing about that, he hate bats, so him killing a few down actually makes sense.
That is true. That he did have a bat phobia. He did have a bat phobia. I used to have a phobia. I had a phobia that I would run out of cigarettes. I am a former 30-year smoker, and the way I ended up quitting was I started using e-cigarettes, and then I went into vaporizers. And yesterday, or a couple of days ago actually, on my way, at the vape store, I was handed a sheet of paper that's a petition to keep vaping legal. And it threw me off because I was like, well, why is it illegal? Or why are they trying to make it illegal? If you give it a little thought, it turns out that big tobacco, who our government is in love with and vice versa, they didn't get in on the ground floor with e-cigarettes and vapes and stuff. So they're losing money by the bucketful because people like me no longer buy their products. Uh-huh. And so they're lobbying strongly to get vaping illegal. And I understand that. I understand business, but it still bothers me because it's something that I like, something I'm into, and again, it helped me quit smoking. And I think that would be a benefit for everybody. Everybody should be able to see there's a good thing in that. And what really just bewilders me, though, is on my way to the vape store, I passed no less than 15 marijuana dispensaries.
What?
So I can get high as a kite. Oh yeah, Van. The United States of America is an interesting place to live right now, especially around where I live. Once you cross 8 Mile and once you get into Detroit, the city limits proper, there's a dispensary. There's dispensaries like there used to be cell phone stores. Remember how cell phone stores popped up on every corner
for about 20 minutes? Yeah.
Yeah, for about 20 minutes, and that's what I think is going to happen here. Eventually, a lot of these dispensaries are going to fall off. Once people decide. Once everything gets standardized.
Well, yeah.
I believe are these legal?
They're well, not federally. They're legal on a state level. What they've done here in Michigan is decriminalized, I think, up to an ounce of personal possession. Mm-hmm. Which that had been the law for about a year, which I thought was very funny because, well, you could possess it, but it's still illegal to sell or buy.
Right.
So, but you can have some. That's fine. But now, then they passed the medicinal law, so then you had to get a prescription, and as we've known from cases across the country, that it's not real tough to get a prescription. You know, all you have to do is complain that, you know, I fall asleep if I get tired. Oh, well, you need a prescription for that. So, I mean, that was the kind of maladies that people were using. And then just recently, and I'm guessing because of the evidence of my eyes, that it's no longer a medicinal thing. I've had friends tell me they've gone to dispensaries and just used their driver's license. So you can get high as a kite, but don't buy a vaporizer.
Yeah, stop snitching.
I'm dry snitching all my friends and my entire town and my state. It's all anyway. That's just my personal rant. I just thought it was really weird that they're trying to make what's theoretically harmless, and weed's harmless too, but it's been illegal for so long, and now suddenly, like I said, man, it's like every few blocks. I have yet to go in one, but I'm just.
Have any of you ever been to the Netherlands? Been to Amsterdam?
I never have.
No, but it's the bucket list thing. Well, not anymore, really, because hell, I can just walk up the street now. Yeah. Well, it's not like I was going to Amsterdam for anything but legal marijuana.
Yeah.
Well, you can sit in a nice coffee shop.
Yes, I can sit in a nice coffee shop.
Roll up. You know, and it's like, oh, this is nice.
Look at the flowers. The atmosphere.
It's weird because I don't smoke, but I went on a stag do for one of my best friends, and because I don't smoke, they wanted to get me sort of in the mood with the guys that did smoke, so someone bought me a chocolate cake. Now I didn't know that I ate this chocolate cake. I was starving. We just got off the plane and just landed and we were walking around, and I had this piece of chocolate cake. I didn't know it was space cake. So we're sitting in this place in this
space cake.
That's an awesome phrase.
And suddenly, like the wall started vibrating, like someone was playing loud music, and I thought, what the hell was going on? And I'm looking around, and there's a picture of me just looking like scared and worried because I thought the walls were like, I thought it was my music ability or something. Like I was making the walls vibrate, and I thought, what is going on? No, don't worry, I gave you space cake. And I thought, what the fuck, guys? But that was the first and last time I ever tried anything. So I don't smoke. So but it was weird. My head was pounding. My head was actually pounding.
I mean, I imagine it was probably pretty funny for your friends, but screw them for dosing you like that, man. You gotta tell people.
They thought it'd be harmless, and and I was like, well, But it was bought over the counter. It was like like I said, you could go to the coffee shop. You could either buy the weed itself, or you could buy a space cake. And it's I had a space cake, which I didn't know at the time.
From what I understand, smoking it and ingesting it like eating it in a cake or candy, or like they got like THC infused sodas now, and from what I understand, it's a very, very different high, and it's supposed to be a lot more intense. But this is all in theory. I don't know any of these things. Oh, speaking of which, we've got some younger listeners, so I'm going to edit all this shit out.
Oops.
Well, I wanted to give a shout out to young Jason Torres and his dad, Jose Tito Torres. They're a couple of really funny dudes, and they keep me laughing. I wanted to send a message to Jay Key, young rat monkey Jay Key. I know we curse a lot on this show, Jay. And I just want you to know that it's a lazy form of communication, and you should not do it ever. So fuck cussing. All right, gentlemen. Fallout 4.
Fallout 4.
What was that, Kyle?
Fallout 4.
Ah, I misheard you. I thought you said Fallout 4.
Yeah, I can see where the similarity could confuse one.
Fallout 4 was released last week, and so many people bought it that Pornhub's traffic dropped 10%. No lie.
Wow. There you go.
No lie.
Surprising no one.
November is going to be a bad month for jerkers because we've got Call of Duty, we've got Halo, We've got Fallout. We've got Assassin's Creed. We've got Lara Croft. Star Wars.
Not
Yeah,
that Lara's
people going to be...
anyone's,
Well, no, you got to use your hands for the controller, my friend. Got to use your hands for the controller, and there's going to be a lot of controller usage.
Especially given the new... Anyway,
They all can't be gems, my friend.
Yeah, no, that was just... I like how this is right after you said, kids listen, and then we're immediately like, also, masturbation is down. So many games. Go figure.
As you gentlemen are in the know, I just want to ask: are there any new PlayStation 2 games that have been released recently?
There's a new Tetris, and I don't know.
Oh.
You know what? It wouldn't shock me terribly that if they kept releasing PlayStation 2 games, because it would sort of make sense, because not all of us have PlayStation 4 money.
It was the longest lasting console shelf life ever, but it's over. I think it lasted like 12 years or so.
That's not bad at all.
It's insanely high is what it is, but not quite high enough.
Good enough. Fallout 4.
Fallout 4.
So, did you get it? Did you pre-order in? What's going on?
Oh yeah, I got it. I actually got it a little later than everybody else. I'm probably behind the curve on this one because there was a bit of a snafu with delivery. So I didn't get mine until like Friday, which means that I was 2 days behind anybody else. And, so I've only played a couple days worth of the game all told.
Okay.
So far.
Well, the funniest reference I've seen to Fallout was a little 4-panel comic strip. You see a guy say, "Oh God, great! I've got my Fallout game." You see panel 1, he's sitting there, he pops in and he starts playing. Panel 2, his beard's growing a little bit. Panel 3, his beard's growing a lot. And panel 4, he's got like a huge, fully grown beard, and he's like, "Whoo, whoo, finally finished." And his buddy runs up, "Hey, you finished the game?" "Nope, finished creating my character."
Yep. That's about right.
So yeah, that's deep. That's deep.
Yeah, no, and as promised, my name is not in it.
Are you kidding? Nope. I thought that was just a joke.
Nope, Kyle is not a recognized name by the game.
Huh.
Kyle is not. Assface actually is.
Wow.
You can be named Assface, and the characters in the game, the NPCs will call you Assface.
Well,
can't be Kyle.
What was that, Jamill?
Well, to be fair, that is Kyle's nickname.
I was going to say something like that.
That's just mean.
Not so much mean as cheap. Cheap and easy.
I usually play a girl character in these games anyways, with the logic being if I'm going to stare at something for like 4,000 hours, it might as well be a girl.
Pick a girl
character.
character.
Yeah, no, so that's, it
cheap and easy.
Makes sense. Oh, come on.
Jack, I made that joke and I let it go because that was tasteless. Thanks, Jack.
Come on, man. But no, it's there's lots of reasons why I tend to gravitate that way. There's the fact that I think that more female, I genuinely do believe that more female protagonists can't possibly be a bad thing. So if I'm given the choice, why not?
You know what? I do the same thing, but my reasons aren't as lofty as yours.
Yeah, well, mine are on every level. Like I said, I like to look at women, so why not? And also, it can be two things. I can be both a disgusting pigman and a lofty, thoughtful person. Like, you can do both at the same time, and I do.
My
on a
man,
regular
Oinky.
basis. But so I made my character. I made my female character. I got everything all set up. The name I usually use for the girls is also not in the game.
Assface?
No. But then, so I'm playing the game, and I get up, I'm playing, I'm walking through, and all of a sudden I walk up to this NPC, and he tosses out his backstory. He's just like, "They took my son, they killed Kyle," and I'm like, "Fuck!" So it's not recognized in the game, but it's not because they forgot the name exists. They consciously knew. They knew that there were Kyles, and they consciously chose.
It's like
not let me be.
Within the game, they retired the Kyle jersey.
So but the game is absolutely as good as I had hoped. It's great. It's living up to hype in every single way.
Good.
It's very much so. A lot of people are upset because they didn't change all that much from Fallout 3, but it's a very serious case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, this is not a game. I didn't want it to be different. I just wanted Fallout 3, but prettier, and now. Like, that's... and that is what I got. So
yeah, it sounds like a win-win.
And to be fair to the game, it's not like Assassin's Creed. We haven't seen a Fallout game in, 4 years? So even if it's more of the same, it's been 4 years since you played that same.
Yeah.
I see how you use female characters. The same reason I do, actually. But, I gravitate towards fighting games. I just use the female characters because they're faster.
Yeah.
Much faster.
I agree with you there.
Yeah, and I like to get in, strike, and get out.
Like the jiggly boobs in fighting games.
Well,
That's
it's there.
Yeah, but I'm trying to dodge strikes, dude.
And, it's like I said before. I'm not going to deny the fact that I am a guy and that I like to see that stuff. But that stuff is secondary or tertiary to me. That's pretty far down the line. Like, my favorite thing about the new Tomb Raider games is that like I said before last time we tried to record this episode, my favorite thing about the new Tomb Raiders is actually that they've completely abandoned the whole she's basically just software. They've completely abandoned that. Now Lara is an actual fully realized character with a lot of
I used to like Laura's octagonal, polygonal boobs.
Everybody did once upon a time, but...
Yeah, no, I can dig it. As we mature. No, absolutely, because it takes more than eye candy, especially, like, a good example, like I said, I use female characters in fighting games, but as a real-world analog, if I'm watching, like, WWE and it's a Divas match, the women wrestle, and they're barely wearing anything, and I'm just really not interested. I'm just really not interested. Unless they put on a dynamite match, and then I'll get into it. Of course, there's the occasional boob slippage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're going to start watching wrestling now. Hey, whatever gets you in there.
My logic was always just porn isn't that hard to find, so...
Well, there's that.
So we can, for the most part, dispense with it in the games. I'm not going to pretend I don't enjoy the stuff that's there, because I am a guy and I do enjoy it, but it's never been, like, a priority for me.
Off topic, Playboy is no longer publishing nudes.
Ooh.
Really?
Really? Because of the same thing you just said. You're 2 clicks away from naked chicks right now.
Well,
naked chicks doing
literally
beyond,
anything.
Yeah, beyond naked.
It barely naked anyway. It's so airbrushed and it's so modest. There's really no point to it.
Well, no, now it's gonna be kind of like Maxim or FHM now is what I'm thinking.
Just focus.
And Playboy was always and Playboy has always had a very, very strong literary component. I mean, if that's not an exaggeration, they've always had some of the best interviews, and they used to always do excerpts from very good novels. So maybe they'll just kind of become more of a lifestyle magazine, which is what they always pretended to be.
They'll just actually take that role.
Yeah,
it's a good idea. I support them in their endeavor.
As do I. But I think, you kind of... There's the nostalgia thing. Generations of kids, their first naked chick's not going to have a staple in her belly, and that's just going to be weird.
I've never actually read or looked at Playboy, ever.
Neither have I, actually.
I was thinking there's probably a 10 or 20-year gap between people who actually looked at it and people who really think it's something their grandpa had.
By the time I wanted to look at naked women, I had the internet. So I had to wait 4.5 hours for a single picture to load, and half the time somebody would walk in, and I'd have to drop kick the monitor immediately and fast. But
Well, okay, Kyle. Then you never grew up trying to watch softcore adult films on a scrambled channel, then, have you?
No. Oh my God! Children, listen to this. We don't.
Jack, what's funny, Jack? I think this is proof like the economical difference, because me and Kyle are close to the same age, but we didn't have a computer and we barely had cable. So everything you're saying, I remember. It
could definitely be
8, and you trying to I think I seen a titty.
Right.
Was that a titty? Yeah, that was a titty. Okay.
That's funny because you experienced, and the reason, like you said, it was just a economic thing. You experienced those things, Jamill, not because you're old. See, I experienced those things because that's what was available. That's all that was. Scrambled cable. Well, speaking of scrambled, I hear my Persnickety podcast partner scrambled his ass to the theater a couple days ago and caught a little spy movie called Spectre.
Fuck yes. Yes. Yep.
Was that a fuck yes?
Yes, it was a fuck yes.
You hear that, Jay? Don't do that. Okay, well, what'd you think of Spectre, my friend?
I went apeshit over it. I absolutely freaking loved it. And I'm backed up in this opinion in my relentlessly optimistic, incredibly joyous opinion by my lovely girlfriend, Marika, who saw it with me and, despite barely being a Bond fan, also fucking loved it. And she's also a lot more cynical than I am. So if she loved it too...
Oh, how is that possible?
It's yeah, literally everyone. But if my point is, if she loved it too, it tempers my reaction into being a little bit more of a normalized area.
Well, I hear that some people thought it was a bit of a mess. Let's see, who said it was a bit of a mess? The Viscount L. Van Lawn said it was a bit of a mess. Can you?
I saw it a couple of weeks ago, and I saw it with some of the clients that I work with. I work with adults with learning disabilities, and so we all went to the cinema. And I came out on a buzz. I was like, I need to watch this film again. I need to see this again. I need to see it again. And I will go and watch it again. I really liked it. But what's been bugging me is they had Christoph Waltz as the villain, and because he's played such a great villain in some of his past endeavours, he seemed like a really weak, had really weak motivation for his character. It's like, James, my daddy looked after you and taught you how to ski, and now I'm going to kill you. Is that it? Is that all it was? Spectre, he had this sort of shadow in the background, and I thought, wow, okay. I mean, the film is a great film, but just it's let down by that fact that they got such a great actor, and his role was just literally minimum. I didn't feel the fear factor, this guy was. I love the references to him beforehand. You see the cat and you think, oh, wait a minute, could he be? I don't want to mention the name just in case spoilers. But and he is that character. I think
the word cat pretty much got it.
but also the I don't know if I should. Can I talk about the end of the film? I don't want to say, but the end of the film made me think of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Gets in the car and he's with the lady he loves. Now, let's say they drive away. I think the next James Bond film could start where On Her Majesty's Secret Service ends.
That's exactly what I was saying. Exactly what I was saying. Cause
I was going to say that sounds like what you were predicting a couple of weeks ago.
The movie was almost accurate to what I predicted. I got one character's position slightly wrong, but other than that, I almost hit it, and it just ends about 12 seconds before my... It just ends a good 25 minutes or so before my prediction would have ended. But it's still there, and that's the thing. That's what I love so much about this one, is they can stop right now and recast, reboot, do whatever they want, and they have a relatively satisfying conclusion. They can stop now, or the next opening credits scene, the next cold open, can be the setup for them finally fulfilling the promise that On Her Majesty's Secret Service made 50 fucking years ago, and give me that finale. They can go either way. I'm happy either way. I don't care anymore. They can reboot, recap, whatever they want. I'm satisfied. I mean, I want that last one. I do. I want it. But it's not going to kill me. I won't die inside if they don't.
Okay. Jamill, what were your thoughts on the film?
Okay, I just want to say spoilers because I'm not... I love the movie. I really love it. But that movie is a fucking mess. It is, man. There are so many leaps. There are so many things in there that I could point to. And this was any other movie I would have a problem with. But since it's James Bond, I'm okay with. But this movie has been getting million reviews. I can see why. But the movie is a mess. Just to go off what Vaughn said, his motivation Like, why do they have to be connected? Like, it's some heavy retcon. It's some heavy, like, prequel, like, fan leaps of logic retcon they do in this movie. Like, yeah, I've been here the whole time. I funded it. It don't even make any sense. You didn't have to do that. It was unnecessary. There's then the love interest. After coming off Vesper Link, like, that relationship, if you look at Casino Royale, he earns that love. He earns that as the love of his life before this.
Yeah.
You don't earn that. Like, she literally hates him for 2 scenes, and out of nowhere, she loves him. Like she smiles, breasts. Then he's getting tortured like, James, I love you. Like, what the fuck that come from?
She saw him fight Batista on a train. That's all it takes. I was in love with him by the end of that.
It worked for John Cena.
Fought Batista on a train. That's all. That is the primary method of falling in love.
I laughed what they did after. Silly guys, what should we do now? And I just what they did after that was quite funny actually. I actually laughed out loud.
Yeah, me too. I cracked. The thing is that what you're saying is you can apply these complaints to basically every existing James Bond movie except for Casino Royale.
Now, that's the thing, though. That's the thing. These movies have done a job to where, like, look, we can forgive the old movies. Don't mean we should forgive the movies going forward. You know what I'm saying? And like,
good point.
Huh?
No, I just said good point.
It's like complaining about the new Godzilla movie for being a Godzilla movie, which is what everybody did. Like, we know what we're getting, so why are we complaining about what we're getting?
Because these movies have done such a job of creating a certain tone that when it kind of steps back from that, it's like, dude, he defeats the bad guy with his little small gun by shooting it at the helicopter. I'm just like,
okay.
That's
we're just spoiling all over the place. I hope Jack doesn't mind.
I said,
nah.
I'm sorry.
I'm good.
Like, we'll put a disclaimer before this in the actual episode just to avoid being huge dicks. But
and I said,
to anyone but Jack.
I'm happy. Sorry, Jack. I'm so sorry.
Nobody cares about Jack.
Look, I think like his motivation is weak. He like again, they want to make him Bond's greatest villain within one movie. Like,
okay, what was Bond's greatest villain's motivation the first time around? Literally never mentioned.
Well,
he had no motivation at all. None. No, literally none.
His motivation was in the original movie was, you keep fucking up my plans.
His motivation in the original movies was the same as Dr. Evil's. He just wanted a bunch of money.
That's another thing.
At least he had a motivation this time.
That's another thing I would like to bring up. I think maybe Dr. Evil might have destroyed this character for everybody.
Yeah, that's why they differentiated him. That's why they tried to make him different, because they were trying to avoid the Mr. Bigglesworth incident.
It's more of a setup than it is an end.
Right. No, they can do more with it, and I hope that they do. And if they do, I think you'll be a lot happier with it. But
I think the fact that I also got about to give something away. I think the fact that maybe the villain can return in the future kind of does set it up. But I think that would be a good little.
The early rumors were that this was a quote unquote 2-part film anyway. And the only reason that they made it with an ending that throws that in doubt is because we don't know if Daniel Craig is coming back or not, and I think they're trying to avoid On Her Majesty's Secret Service. They don't want to commit to this being a 2-parter if we don't know for sure whether or not we're going to get Daniel Craig. And the thing is that within 2 weeks, I saw 2 interviews, one of which saying he's definitely coming back, where he said it, and another one where he said, again, he himself said that he would rather kill himself than come back. So it seems like even he doesn't know right now whether or not he wants to come back. So they probably had to write themselves an out.
So that brings me to a question for Van. What's up with you wishy-washy Brits?
What?
I was drinking water and I almost died.
Sorry about that, Kyle. Why can't you Brits make up your mind?
Excuse me. Hold on a minute. What is this? What is this?
1 minute, I'll do the movie. The next minute,
no. I think with Daniel Craig. I mean, I've seen him on a couple of, more than a few on British TV interviews, and I think he just needs to sort of step away from it for a little while. I mean, just let everything die down. All the promotions and stuff, because I think he works quite hard on the actual films, and I think he has a lot on his shoulders. But I think maybe in a few months' time, when he's when he used to pay off his fifth mortgage on his big mansion. Maybe he might come back into it. No, I think he looked quite tired when I saw him on the few interviews. He looked quite drained and tired. So
Bun moved a little slower in this movie. It seemed like he was like, "Fuck it, I'm not running no more." It seemed like
he was a lot more. He was a lot more classic Bond. Like the whole point of the new series was to see the evolution from action hero to the suave Bond who doesn't need to run because he knows exactly where he needs to get. And you know what I mean. And they did it. They did a great job doing that character arc and that progression.
I left the cinema and I thought this is the first time I thought Craig now to me is next to Connery. In the James Bonds, and I didn't really think that in the last sort of couple of films, but now that he was walking it in this, it was like literally, I thought, like, this guy's James Bond. He just carried it really well. So as a character wise, I think, yeah, definitely. Oh,
yeah.
He was too cool for school, man. I mean, he was the opening. Yeah, he walks out in the night, got his suit on. That is just incredible. I was like, oh my word, this guy was on point. So. Yeah, he's definitely one of the Bonds now. I think he's falls as one of the greats with me now.
I agree. I'm not now. Don't miss it. I'm by no means am I trying to pretend that this movie was flawless because it wasn't. But no James Bond movie is flawless. They're all messed up. They're all. You do not want to tug any threads in James Bond because the thing will fall the fuck apart immediately.
But no, like I said, I love this movie, but I can see why people would have problems with it.
Right, but to me, it's just those people are the people who would have problems with literally any James Bond movie. So I don't see the.
Let's put it this way: it's better than A Quantum of Solace, right?
Well, yeah, Quantum of Solace was a very lukewarm.
I don't know what that was. Yeah, I thought it was shit. But
people say it was terrible, but then I remind them that Die Another Day happened, and then they go, "Oh." Oh yeah.
So, even though I think this movie is a mess, I love it, and it's sure in hell better than any of the Brosnan movies. I just want to put that out there. Like, it's still better than any Brosnan, and most of the
more.
It wasn't better than GoldenEye.
Huh?
GoldenEye was awesome.
Yeah, let's give credit where it's due, man. GoldenEye was astonishing.
Yeah, I agree, GoldenEye, but hey, same guy that directed Casino Royale, so that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, same writer, I think.
No, same director too, George Martin, I believe.
Was it? I'll check sometime. But anyway, yeah, no, GoldenEye's my favorite Bond flick out of all of them.
Seriously?
So funny.
Yeah, absolutely it was.
God.
It was the perfect blend of, like, it had the harsh edge that they were trying to do with Dalton and stuff, but they went back to the big crazy plots and the larger than life villain, and you've got, Sean Bean. Sean Bean!
Yes,
I don't think I need to say
Bean.
anything else. Sean Bean.
For the first time ever, lived through the entire movie and died at the end.
Sean Bean or Sean Bond?
It's Sean Bean.
I was going to say, if it was 10 years ago, Ray Fiennes would probably been a good Bond.
I agree. I'll always be sad that we missed our chance for
what's his name?
Sam
Neill.
Yes, my greatest.
No.
Yes. No, he did screen tests for him. He was their third choice. He was almost James Bond twice, and he did screen tests, and I have seen the screen tests, and he was awesome.
It's a reason for the third choice.
Yeah, but dude, it's third choice out of 8 million actors. So
well, look, I mean, I never got my Bond, Rowan Atkinson. But did you guys decide? Did you guys, the three of you, have determined, from what I'm getting from this conversation, the three of you enjoyed the movie?
Oh yeah, we definitely.
I mean, all criticism, all bullshit aside, still.
Oh yeah.
Kick-ass movie.
Yeah, very fun.
I recommend and watch it on the big screen. Don't watch it
for sure.
Excellent. And don't worry about spoiling it. At least don't worry about spoiling it for me, as we've determined my short-term memory is shot. I'm not going to remember talking to you guys tomorrow. So
two things can I say? This movie is about 20 minutes too long, and she just left. She just walked away.
Yeah.
And evidently that's a spoiler too. So I'm not going to really worry about it. I'm going to assume that our listeners have seen the damn movie.
Son
for the
of a
most
bitch.
part.
All right, here we go. But
For the
if you didn't,
most part,
if you didn't,
okay.
we're sorry. Please see it anyway.
No.
If you didn't, Kyle's sorry. Jack doesn't give a shit.
I am sorry. I have very strict rules about these things, and I'm breaking them all over the place today.
If the movie had just come out like yesterday, I'd be on board with you, Kyle. But we've had a couple weeks.
Yeah, I know. I give people a year. That's my.
No, that's a good one. But
that's my rule. But
Bond films are alike enough that you describe one, you could be describing several.
That is fair.
Kyle, I did say she inexplicably fell in love with him. That literally could be any of the 24 Bond movies.
Right, which was my defense for the exact. You're right. I'm being nervous for nothing. You're right.
Okay, and you guys thought Chris Waltz was a decent villain, even though Jamill, you had some problems with his. Well, no, Van had problems with his motivation.
We both have.
He could have been better. Even I'll admit he could have been better, but he was awesome. He was good. They could do more and should have done more. I agree.
I think they should have. I mean, like I said, these films seem to be like very, Daniel Craig centric, and he is. I think he's a great Bond. But I think this was a moment to have a really strong villain that really made you crap your pants, like really shit yourself. And I thought there was going to be something major was going to happen, and it just didn't happen. And I felt a bit like, oh, okay.
Currently on television, we have a pants-shitting, horrible, scary villain who's just been revealed on this season of The Flash. There's a villain named Zoom. Straight up, he is scary as hell. He took the Flash and literally kicked his ass from one end of the city to the other, and then took his almost lifeless body and showed him off to his friends. Ran to the police station and said, hey, look, I got the Flash by his neck. Your hero isn't shit. And ran over to the Star Labs, showed everybody there, hey, your hero ain't shit. And just dragged him around the city and put him on display.
That's awesome.
Oh, it was great.
I've read all the Facebook comments, and I've only seen the first promo of that. I haven't seen any of season 1, and I need to.
Oh, you should.
Oh no, yeah. Season 1.
Oh, it's very good.
Kyle, you be quiet. Took you forever.
I know. I'm teaching. I'm saying from experience. I learned a lesson.
Well, the reason I bring up Zoom is in the comics, the Reverse Flash and Zoom, who is a completely different character in the comics, they're not first stringers. They may be the Flash's arch enemy, but as far as the larger superhero universe, they're kind of second stringers. And I was wondering, well, this episode of The Flash really made Zoom a badass. He is not to be screwed with, not at all. And I was wondering, did you guys have any other ideas of any other secondary or second tier or third string villains that you think are underrated and should probably step up?
There's a villain, but it's not. I think he's only made one appearance in an Amazing Spider-Man comic, probably around 28, 29 years ago, and his name was Slide. Now, I don't know if any of you guys remember Slide.
I remember Slide.
I do not.
So he worked in a non-stick frying pan facility or something, and he made a suit that was non-stick. and Spider-Man, literally, he ran rings around Spider-Man, and it was like Spider-Man is like a really kind of seasoned, combatant. He's taken on many people. He was just left in a spin by this guy, and I thought, this is a guy in a non-stick. There's a suit coated with a non-stick solution, so he could slide about the place, and Spider-Man's webs wouldn't have any effect, and Spider-Man was trying to chase after him, and I thought to myself, this guy's pretty cool. But I haven't seen anything done with him since. But I think it's amazing.
Of course, you haven't seen anything done with him since. I remember that issue because he didn't last more than just the single issue. He was one of those single issue villains.
Well,
yeah, but he needs
was
to come
the Joker
back.
at one point,
It's Amazing Spider-Man.
That second chance.
I think it's Amazing Spider-Man 272. I'm sure it's that issue. I can't be certain, but I'm sure it's that issue. Slide, SLYDE.
Yeah, I think it was right there in the McFarlane era, wasn't it?
Just before.
So it might have been Ron, either Ron Friends. I think Ron Friends probably drew it.
I think it's Ron Friends.
He used to always draw these strange flat top heads. Slide, you know what? That never would have. Yeah, that he qualifies. He absolutely qualifies.
It's just what he did to Spider. He kind of baffled Spider-Man for most of the issue. And I thought, this guy is nobody. I mean, I don't know. You know, he didn't seem to come from a background where he could fight or had any skills. And then suddenly he has a non-stick frying pan suit, and he's like sliding around, and he's
untouchable.
Yeah.
I want to see, and there's two that I really want to see, two Batman villains that I don't see nearly enough of, and one of them has been in a bunch of shit lately, but hasn't done much in any of them except be around and be awesome.
Are you going to talk about Zaz?
Of course I'm going to talk about Zaz again. Who else would I talk about? I fucking love Zaz. No, but I was going to say Zaz, and I really, really think that they could do a lot more than they do with the ventriloquist.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I would like to see more of the ventriloquist. The ventriloquist and Scarface. Fucking love them.
I do too.
Yeah.
Quite scary, I think. Chilling.
So what is it about Zaz, besides standing around, that you dig? Well, tell the listeners who Zaz is.
Okay, so Victor Zaz is, what he is in the comics is just a straight-up serial killer who was a very rich guy whose parents died. And then, unlike Batman, he's sort of, and this is what I like about him, actually, is he's sort of the exact opposite of Batman. Batman had this stuff happen to him when he was young, and it made him desperate to make sure that nobody ever dies, and desperate to make sure that, you know what I mean, he's desperate to save people. Batman is a serial saver, I like to say. And Zaz became convinced that everyone's already dead, and he's doing everybody a favor, including himself, if he just kills them.
Yeah.
Kills them and strings them up. And every time he does it, he carves a tally mark into his skin. And he's basically covered head to toe by the time, by the time shit gets going with Batman, and by the time things get involved, and you know what I mean. There's a lot of potential there to look at it, because all the most fun stuff that they ever do with Batman is by looking at villains in a very psychological way and looking at them as various versions of Batman, if you see what I'm saying. Like, they're all mirrors for Batman in some way. They're all, if only his brain had been broken in slightly this way instead, he might have a split personality, or he might be obsessed with solving riddles, or he might be obsessed with, himself.
That's a very good way to look at it.
Has proven to be a good contest, though, for Batman.
Not necessarily. Yes. He's usually more of a throwaway. They kind of use him as a distraction while other more important shit happens. In the games he's in the shows he's in basically all situations, he's just sort of the first guy to pop up, except for like a couple of his earlier stories. But they could, is my point. Like with the right writers in the right situation, I think that he could genuinely be a threat, Yeah,
Zaz is generally cannon fodder for bigger villains.
Yeah, but that's exactly my point, is I think he's underrated, and I think he's a bigger shot. I think that we're at a point now where they can have some fun with this guy, and Ventriloquist is just fun. I think he's fun. I think he's a creative hook. I just like the guy. Give him his tiny little Tommy gun and let him go to town. That's what I want.
Jamill, do you have an underrated villain on deck?
So I feel like if they ever made a Batman, like a Batman proper TV show, Zaz would probably be like a season-long villain.
Possibly. What I like about Zaz is, he's very real world. Mm-hmm. He could be stalking the city that you live in right now, which is comforting. Jamill, did you have a villain that you want to talk about?
Oh, yeah, I got one. I was just thinking about this. Ocean Master, an Aquaman villain.
Please tell me about Ocean Master, because I know the name, but I can't picture him.
I don't know the name.
I know the name.
I've never heard of him.
So, there's two versions of Ocean Master. The one I'm talking about is the new 52 version. I know Jack is boycotting DC for the new 52, but a lot of good things have came out of the new 52, including Aquaman and like his rogues gallery. Ocean Master is Aquaman's brother. And Orin, yeah.
Okay.
And in the new 52, it's very much a Thor Loki type of relationship where they clearly love each other, but one is kind of fucked up. Not necessarily a straight up villain, more of an anti-hero. with like shades of villainy, but like he can go back and forth. And I think that version of Ocean Master is probably the best version of Ocean Master. I'm not so for sure about post-crisis Ocean Master, but I know like New 52 Ocean Master is pretty damn great. He was basically, Aquaman basically grew up on land and on pretty much, was king of Atlantis. And like when Aquaman came, he like, here, bro, you can have it. And he was genuine. It's just certain shit conspired and they ended up on the wrong side.
Huh. You know what? I think I could get into that. I have a second tier, third tier villain who I think should step up, but it's really not possible because she's been dead for a while, and I don't know if they ever picked her up in the New 52. It was the James Robinson, Jack Knight Starman's main villain, which was the Mist, who was the daughter of the original Mist, who they introduced on The Flash. Obviously, it's not the original Mist. The original Mist was in his late 60s. Mist and Starman retired and passed the mantles down to their kids. Ted Knight, the original Starman, passed the mantle down to his son and was immediately killed by the Mist's son, who had taken over his identity. So Jack, the youngest brother, takes up the Starman mantle and kills Kyle. Sorry, Kyle. That's the Mist. He was the second Mist. His name was Kyle. The woman I'm talking about, the youngest child, her name is Nash, and she goes from 0 to 100 in no time flat. She's meek, mild, she stutters, she doesn't want to have anything to do with her father's career as a supervillain, and then Jack kills her brother. Not only does she snap, she decides to become evil, she loses the stutter, and just goes straight up completely evil, one of the best villains I've ever seen. She drugs Jack, knocks him out, rapes him, gets pregnant, and tells Jack about this and says, I'm just going to raise this child with the sole purpose of hating you.
Wow. Okay.
She killed the Justice League Europe. She disguised herself as Ice Maiden and went to a Justice League Europe meeting with Amazing Man, Crimson Fox, and Blue Devil. She revealed herself to be an actual villain, and so the Amazing Man came at her. Amazing Man has the powers to absorb anything he touches, so he's like, I'm going to knock you out when I absorb the strength of this concrete wall. But what he didn't know was that wasn't a concrete wall, it was actually glass, and she had just painted it. And so she shattered him. Wow. And so Blue Devil shows up and says, I'll take you out with my burning flames from my trident, my Hellfire trident. And he pulls his trident out and the flames shoot up, which activate the sprinklers, which she filled with holy water. Kill Blue Devil. Crimson Fox is the only one left, and she just, kind of slit her throat. The Mist was awesome. She was the villain's villain. She in the 90s, she decided to gather up a bunch of other minor villains and do an old school crime wave and kept the city in fear for like a week. Who does a crime wave anymore?
The Road?
Well, there's that.
But she killed Blue Devil. I'm upset about that. I love Blue Devil.
She knocked all three of these characters off in one comic book. It was one 22-page issue of Justice League Europe. It was one of those weird DC gimmick months. It was like all villain get the spotlight month. They do that every once in a while, and I guess the month was it was time for the Mist to shine. In fact, that was the same month they were doing the Kingdom, I believe.
So has she made a return recently in any sort
I don't know if she's back in the New 52 because her dad came out of retirement and decided to destroy the entire city. And since that will kill her and her son, she fought against her dad, and so dad knocked her off.
What? Huh?
Yeah. So and she ended up giving her child to Jack, so Jack's now raising his own son, and he's not being raised to hate him, so that's good.
Wow.
But anyway, I really dig the Mist, and I think the Mist should come back because she was one of the only unabashedly evil characters I'd ever had the pleasure of getting to know. Since we seem to be running a bit short on time, which is odd and unusual, and that never happens on this program, I thought the three of us, me, Kyle, and you too, Jamill, we should probably tell Van about the wonderful movie we caught last time around.
Oh,
last time.
Yes.
Our random review was going to be for Robot Overlords, available on Netflix, but unfortunately, our arch rivals at the Konami Corporation destroyed our servers, and that podcast never was released to the public.
So what's the robot overlords?
Yeah, robot
And, all right.
overlords.
Before we start, Van, what would you expect from a film entitled Robot Overlords?
Sorry.
A chuckle is an acceptable answer.
Do you know what? If someone said let's go and watch Robot Overlords in the cinema, I'd say no, just on the title alone. So you guys need to tell me how good it is.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, strangely enough, as the listeners know, we've been doing random reviews where we pick a movie on Netflix because we figure a lot of people have Netflix and they can join along the fun. And we'll pick movies that are interesting to watch, or at the very minimum, interesting to talk about. You know, just some really bad, horrible things, because Netflix is full of bad, terrible B movies. And so we figured we'd pick a bunch of movies and have a good time laughing about them. And to this date, neither me, nor Kyle, nor Jamill has been able to pick a shitty movie.
Wow, okay.
And so this was actually Jamill's choice, Robot Overlords, because he said with a title like that, how could it be any good?
Man, this thing, man, I came on here talking shit to them, talking about that they're playing it safe. So I was like, fuck it. Robot Overlords, that's what we're going to watch. Because I just knew it.
And Kyle even complained. He's, oh, no, that's just too easy. That's shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
That's obviously garbage. Well, look at us now.
It was pretty good.
It wasn't bad at all.
It was decent. It was like, God.
It was, you were saying pretty good. It was, I don't feel like I wasted my time. I genuinely don't. It had some solid performances from a lot of pretty good actors, a couple of them relatively well known. Well, one of them exceptionally well known, and one of them, Gillian Anderson. But it had
Anderson.
Yeah, Gillian. Yes. It had Gillian Anderson and.
Would you see this movie, Van, if it said Robot Overlords? No, I'm sorry. Let's do it differently. Oscar winner Ben Kingsley in Robot Overlords.
Sorry, Ben Kingsley's in this film.
Yeah, Ben Kingsley's in it.
Why are you laughing? That's not a shot to me. What?
Yeah, no, he was in Dungeon Siege, so it's not like it means much.
He needed to make his next mortgage payment, man. I mean, what's he doing? Okay.
People have asked him in interviews why he does movies like this, and he just straight up said because it's fun. He just genuinely enjoys making crazy B movies. He just loves doing it. It's fun for him. It's his vacation. So.
No matter.
Fair play.
Yeah, so I give him credit for just saying that. I really like that. He feels no need to defend it or anything. He's just like, no, it's fun.
Yeah, and I brought it up to Kyle before he'd actually watched the movie. I had just started it, and the cast was scrolling across the screen. I went, Ben Kingsley? So I immediately called Kyle. I was, hey, Kingsley's in this. And then Kyle was like, yeah, whoop-de-doo. Kingsley's in a lot of shit. And I went, oh, yeah, okay, never mind.
Yeah,
bye.
But Gillian Anderson threw me a little bit. But then I go to watch the movie, and okay, so the basic setup's a little bit odd. So you kind of got to it's one of those. It's definitely a B movie in a really classic sense, where they just present you with something that really doesn't make a lot of sense, but if you just roll with it, it wasn't bad. The basic setup is the machine, the robot empire. The aliens are just called robots. They are from space, so I maintain that they're aliens, even if they are robot aliens.
They're space robots.
Yeah, so they just call themselves the robot empire has come here, and they have the entire planet under occupation, and they are just going to gather all of the information they possibly can from the planet, and then leave. They're just going to go, leave us alone, and be done with it, and that's that. The catch is that during the time that they're here, we are not allowed to leave our houses. So
and they could have made a movie out of that. Come on.
Yes, they did. They did in fact make a movie out of it.
It's
like pretty good.
It's like the setup to a Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, and it wasn't bad. It just wasn't bad. Like, I'm not saying don't misunderstand.
Once you step outside, there is a monitor placed just below your right ear that flashes red once you leave the house, and then a robot will show up shortly and say, go home. Go back in the house. You have 45 seconds to comply, and if you don't, you'll be blown to smithereens. And the robots didn't look bad. the effects were decent.
And how old is this film? What's the year of the film?
Was it 2014?
When was it?
2014, 2013. It's real recent.
It's recent, yeah.
Okay.
So
starred,
yeah. So they're decent effects. Now that you can do decent effects on a home computer.
Yeah. But it starred
That's
those
true.
guys, and like one of the kids, because it was mostly about kids, but the kids were decent actors. It was the kid who was opposite Sir Ian McKellen in Mr. Holmes, was one of the primary kids in this flick, and the other guy, the lead, who was like a younger teenage-ish age, kind of thing. Like I can imagine the kid actors in this movie. I feel like they're going places. They turned in some pretty solid performances. This is one of those cases of if you have a really crappy script, like a really goofy, weird script, if you get decent performances, decent effects, and a decent videographer, like a decent director, you can make something pretty good out of it. It was absolutely watchable.
I thought there were things in the movie that I thought were really well done. It's just like they had the bare bones for a really good movie and made just that bare bones movie and didn't put any effort into any of the bells and whistles, any of the extras. Like you mentioned, Kyle, they weren't called the Extronians, or they weren't called synthesoids. They were robots from outer space. That was what they were called. They were robots from outer space. They weren't even androids. And Van, to answer your question, it came out in 2014.
Yeah, it's very recent.
Yes.
All right. So my barometer is Skyline. Is it better than Skyline?
Yes.
Yes.
I didn't see Skyline.
Yes, it's better than Skyline.
Okay.
At least this had a plot. Skyline was a long Twilight Zone. In my opinion, it was anyway.
Apartment.
It took place. Yeah, this one takes place in the woods. So hey. And so we're not gonna talk about the dwarf liaison.
Oh man, that's creepy.
Yeah, he was kind of creepy.
So in order for the robots to relay their instructions to the humanity, Ben Kingsley is one of the overseers.
He's a collaborator. Is what that's what
The collaborator was
humans
that was an insulting term.
Yeah.
He found that to be insulting.
Yes.
But anyway, there's certain, I guess they're like cops or overseers, and they work with the aliens to keep the humans corralled. And the way they get their instructions is from what they call the liaison. And initially, I thought it was a little kid, but it turns out he's just a really. It's obviously an adult dwarf made to look like a little kid. And
you see, I was thinking girl.
It's just freaky. It's just freaky, and the way they somehow.
I don't know what they did with his face. I don't know if they
Right, I was
dropped
gonna say-
frames or if it was some kind of makeup or if it was
You know,
something they did computerized.
His mouth moves like a 8-bit cartoon character.
Sort of. It's difficult to describe. You need to see it in action.
Because the rest of
any
his,
way we
the
try
rest
to
of his face
describe
looks
it-
normal.
Any way
The
we
mouth
try to
looks
describe it comes out sounding stupid, but when you see it in action, I mean, it's kind of creepy. It's kind of legit creepy looking.
Uh-huh.
So is it makeup you mean, or is it like some sort of CGI effect? Or...
I genuinely couldn't tell. If it was makeup, it was really clever makeup. But I've seen makeup that clever in my life, so
I
I
believe
wouldn't
it
be
was a
shocked.
computer
But
effect. I believe it was a computer effect. And there's a way that the kids, our heroes in this piece, they figure out a way to short out the robot monitoring system, and it's a rather simple fix. And that's really the only part of the movie that just really took me out of it, because I couldn't understand if the robots have been occupying what did it say, like 3 years?
it was something like 3 years before the movie.
Nobody figured that shit out.
Yep.
Basically, Van, they were able to short out the monitors by just applying a bit of electricity, giving your body a mild shock, and it didn't even have to be administered to the device itself. Just shock the person.
Yeah,
and it
accidentally touched
takes
the wrong part of a car battery and bam.
Yeah, and your monitor's offline for what they say, for a few hours.
It was 13 hours.
Okay.
Very specifically, for some reason, 13 hours.
And then they go back online. But that was the only part that really bothered me. But it worked within the frame of this, and as a punishment, characters are taken from their homes and placed in these devices and have their minds and memories drained and uploaded to the robots, which is what they plan to do to every single person on Earth, but they claim they're not, because robots never lie. That's one thing they keep repeating. So one of our characters, teenage kid, is being punished and having his memory sucked out through his ears into this computer. There's a malfunction, it's shut down, there's feedback, and then he gains the power to control the robots with his mind.
He's able to uplink himself into the thing.
It is to make.
Yeah, he Neos that shit.
Like, we're not doing a good job of making this sound watchable, but trust us, it was watchable.
It's slow. I'll say that. It doesn't. It could stand to move a little faster. But it's not a bad movie. I was looking for something offensive. I was looking for something absolutely ridiculous to just rip it to shreds, but it's just not the case.
Yeah,
we forgot to tell Ron the best part. It takes place in England.
Is that the best part of it?
Well, I think it might be for Vaughn. I don't know.
You heard the gasp.
Yeah, it's like the last third of Skyfall, isn't it? It was in My Lovely City. So, but you say it's in England. It's not in London. Then it was sort of in the countryside.
No. It was definitely in the country. It was not in London.
That's rubbish. I'm not watching it. I'm not interested. No.
Change your mind. Yeah,
it's got to be London.
No, there are lots of trees.
If I narrowed what I was interested in to stuff that took place in my city, there'd be like 4 movies, and most of them would be RoboCop. So.
Yeah.
It's weird though. Like
not even the remake.
Yeah.
But Ben Kingsley was in a horrible film called Iron Man 3.
You know what?
Iron Man 3 is great. Iron Man 3 is great.
No, but
Iron Man 3 was awesome.
He was the best part of Iron Man 3, and he was a throwaway joke.
Hey, Jack. By the way, Jack.
But his character Killian was the Guy Pearce character, wasn't it?
Yes.
And Killian was referring to the Ben Kingsley's character, and he said he was known for playing King Lear in a place called Croydon, and I live in Croydon in South London, so Ben Kingsley has been in my area, even though it was in a rubbish film. But anyway.
Yeah, that reminds me. We still do our overrated villains, and that was going to be my one, but we'll do that later.
Oh yeah, Killian or Trevor Slattery?
Oh no, Mandarin. I was going to do like
Mandarin. That's going to be mine
too.
Mandarin's an overrated villain?
Yep.
I don't think he's rated at all.
High five. He's overrated amongst our ilk, comic nerds.
Is he really? Because
do you have any idea how often I have met with people that are just like, whose basic one complaint about Iron Man 3 is, they fucked up the Mandarin.
But,
I have had that conversation.
That's my complaint as well, because I think the Mandarin is part of Iron Man's. He's one of Iron Man's main villains, and he was just.
That doesn't mean he was any good.
But look, Iron Man 2 had Whiplash. I mean, come on.
But they fixed him, sort of. They tried to fix him. I mean, I talked about that. They could have fixed him way better, but they made their effort.
Whiplash was the armored villain without armor.
They ran out of good Iron Man villains.
Shirtless Iron Man villain.
The fact is that they ran out of good Iron Man villains halfway through Iron Man 1.
Iron Man's villains have always been shitty. Yeah,
they're doing their best, guys.
Crimson Dynamo. Come on, Crimson Dynamo, Mandarin, Spymaster. That's a guy who steals plans. I mean, it's not like he has any real powers, even.
Like that's why I actually rather like what they did with Whiplash with Vanko they sort of combined Crimson Dynamo and Whiplash into one guy.
Yeah. Agreed.
And then they were like, well, I mean, so what we have here is like 2/3 of a decent villain and maybe 1/4 of one. So let's stick it together and put a good actor in there and see what happens. And to his credit, and to the movie's credit, they did okay. It should have been much better and could have been much better, but
Iron Man 2 it went in like 7 different directions simultaneously, and they couldn't make up their mind.
I could have fixed it. I keep telling you guys, I could have fixed it, but
it was the movie they sacrificed to set up the Avengers. That's basically what it was. Like, we need one of these movies to set up this Avengers heavily. It's gonna have to be Iron Man 2.
But they could have done it. They could have done it. All they had to do to accomplish that while keeping it on track and having it be the same thing is have the reason that Black Widow gets involved be based around the fact that that Vanko is also from Russia. Just have their two backstories be entwined. You get a more solid reason for her to be there. You get a little bit of backstory for him that we didn't have to experience through Tony. And it just fleshes the whole thing out a little bit more. They could have fixed the entire movie by just doing that. I was amazed when they did.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, watching the bit I saw today, I just thought they could have made it just more about, the government wanted to take the Iron Man suit off Stark.
Yeah, that could have been good too.
That could have been the main thing as well. But
that easily.
Yeah.
It was a Spider-Man 3 problem. They had like 3 main things happening.
Yeah.
And then none of them were fleshed out well enough to carry a movie.
Vaughn, you read comics, don't you?
Who, me?
Yes, you.
Oh, I pretend.
Okay, look.
He just gave you the issue number where a character called Slide popped up. You asked, did he read comics?
Have you ever really cared about Mandarin, or do you just know he's Spider-Man's main villain? Because Iron Man's.
Huh? Yeah, no, I do, because I can't remember the last time I read a Mandarin. I think he was in the Avengers. That's probably, I can't remember now. Probably 91, 92. I can't think of the number. But when I think of Iron Man, I do think of him as one of Iron Man's main villains. So whatever they do, if they're going to portray him, it's almost like doing it to say, it's not the same thing, but it's kind of the same thing. It's like doing that to Dr. Doom then. No, I get you on that. Because now I get it. Right, yes, the Mandarin might have been a second or third string villain, but if you're going to put him in an Iron Man movie, he should be a badass, because Iron Man has had, historically, he's a problem for Iron Man. So make him a fucking problem for Iron Man in the movie.
I guess that's not fair, but they would have had to change everything he was anyway, so they just wanted to do something different. And I definitely...
And if we had like 4 more Iron Man movies, the Mandarin would show up, because they've established within the Marvel Cinematic Universe that the Mandarin actually exists, and he's pissed.
I will say this: what they had set up in the movie as him being like some type of like terrorist, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was okay.
But I ain't gonna lie to you guys. Like when it turned out to be Trevor Slattery, I laughed because I knew everybody would be angry, and I think why I love it.
Never laughed.
No, it made me laugh. I thought it was funny, but we've talked about this movie on One Too Many podcasts, and I don't want to talk about Iron Man 3 anymore for the rest of my life. So
Zod. No.
No, that's Kyle. It's gonna be a special Jack and Kyle episode. It's gonna be me and you
we've been saying that
we'll
for like
do
half a year now. We got to do this.
The anticipation is gonna just gonna be incredible. Let's see. We got the robot overlords out of the way.
Yeah. It wasn't bad. The verdict on that is, seriously, it wasn't bad. If you want to watch a silly B movie with some decent effects and better than you expect performances, I guess watch Robot Overlords, because.
And I've got our dilemma as far as movies that aren't much fun to talk about. I've got our dilemma solved for next week. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, please tune in to the Jack Random Podcast, where we will be discussing Left Behind, starring Nicolas Cage.
Jesus!
Oh,
yes! Why do you hate me, Jack?
Nicolas Cage.
Why did you do this?
If we're going to do it, because of the last 5 fucking shows, that's why we're doing this. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right. We're going in the deep end.
Cow.
What was the name of the film again? What was the name?
Left
Behind.
Left Behind.
Kyle, if you keep complaining, I'm gonna tell Jet to change it to Left Behind, starring Kirk Cameron, and nobody want that. Nobody.
I couldn't find that one.
Huh?
I couldn't find that one.
No, you're right. If we got to pick one, we're going with the Cage.
Okay, Van, here's the story of Left Behind. Left Behind is a book that's based on the first in a series. It's a movie based on the first of a series of novels about the end of the world, the biblical end of the world after, what do they call that thing?
Rapture.
The Rapture, yeah. I knew it had to start with an R. And the blurb is, after millions of people on Earth suddenly disappear, a pilot flying out a plane stuck at 30,000 feet must find a way to ensure the passenger's survival. And yet, it's this series sold like hell. I was running a bookstore at the time the first book came out, and we couldn't keep these on the shelves. People love religious fiction for some strange reason. I guess it's a lot of fun. This movie has 1 entire star out of a possible 5. So I actually am looking forward to next week's show so we can talk shit about this movie.
Okay, this will go well. This one... Jesus, what if it's good? What are we going to do if it's good?
Come on. I picked one. There was no fucking possible way this is going to be good. There's no way. And then this is, come on, it's starring Nick Cage at the height of his weirdoism. Come on,
what
man.
If it's good?
At the height of I'm broke and I need to pay off the IRS ism, yeah.
Everything I know is wrong and upside down. It's like I said I was so proud of myself for this phrase last week, and then no one ever got to hear it. I said, it could still be true. It could be the thing. It was like somebody tripped. It was like somebody stumbled blindly into the collective subconscious of humanity and accidentally tripped over good and bad. Got them all mixed up.
And now it's all
like,
up is down, confused. Left is right.
So we're sitting here watching Robot Overlords going, man, that's pretty good. And people are giving Spectre negative reviews. And I'm just like, what's happening?
And I'm sitting here breaking the law by using a vaporizer, and yet I can buy weed for free. The world has gone crazy. The world has gone crazy.
Oh, man.
Well, let's get to some random recommendations, shall we?
Yeah. Why not?
Why not? Jamill, what have you to recommend for our listeners?
I would like to recommend a toy today. It's the 6-inch Mayfix Darth Vader. If you collect toys, you know that a couple of years ago Hasbro started making 6-inch Star Wars action figure, which is a big thing. Jack would know Star Wars is traditionally 3 3/4 inches.
Yep.
But a couple of years ago, they started making 6 inches, and I said, well, I guess this is the time for me to collect them. And to be honest with you, a lot of them are good, but a lot of them are hit and miss. But what has happened since then is a lot of Japanese companies make 6-inch Star Wars action figures all of a sudden too, and they typically tend to be better than the Hasbro version. I have a Black Series Darth Vader. It's my main Darth Vader, but it's not really that good. It's not really that old. The helmet looks completely stupid. But this version, and I showed Jack earlier and all you guys, it comes with like 5.5 different hands. The proportions are great. It has 35 points of articulation. It's just magnificent.
It looks brilliant. That's from what I saw from the photos. So
the cape has a wire on 2 ends of it. It's a cloth cape, but it has a wire on both ends of it, so you can pose it.
Little flap in the wind. That's cool.
Pose his damn cape.
That is cool.
It's just and if you collect Black Series, it fits in with your Hasbro figures perfectly. So if you want to mix and match, I really recommend it. It's a little more, a Black Series is 20. This is like 54. But it's so worth it if you collect 6-inch Star Wars action figures.
Kick ass. Well, I've seen the figure, and it does look good, and I like the picture you had with Luke and Vader fighting. Nice. Empire Strikes Back style. Sweet.
The hand doesn't come off. That's the only disappointing part.
Well, that's a design flaw.
Yes.
Van, what you got for us, buddy?
All right, I know I'm a little bit behind on the comics scene, but I'd like to recommend the Moon Knight from the Dead. Collected the first 6 issues of Moon Knight written by Warren Ellis. I've just got that. Well, I got it about a month ago. I just read it beginning of this week, and it is absolutely brilliant. It's like a reimagining of Moon Knight and how he operates. And Warren Ellis brings his incredible skills to the table, and he really kind of switches up a little bit from the past. A little bit, Moon Knight's still a bit crazy. But he's a good crazy.
A little bit.
But yeah, but I kind of recommend it because I was quite surprised with some of the stories that he's kind of brought to the table. It's kind of really creative. It's definitely Ellis. He kind of thinks from a different kind of wavelength, I think, when he writes. And
I like Ellis superhero stuff. I'm very interested in this.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. I mean, I know this Moonlight story is quite old. It was probably about a year old, I think. But I bought it recently on the recommendation of one of our friends. So yeah, it's good. Does
the trade have a title?
Yeah, the title is From the Dead.
Right on.
From the Dead. Yeah.
All right, done and done. Mr. Fulton, what you got?
I'm recommending the show Supernatural. I've been rewatching it again. I do this like once a year. I end up like sitting and for like a couple of weeks.
It's on Netflix now, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Up till they're always up till the season before. So the first 10 seasons are currently on Netflix. Yes, you heard me. We are now in season 11 of this show.
I never started it because I didn't think it was going to last, so I didn't want to invest.
It's good.
Evidently.
If you don't want to watch 11 seasons of a show, you can bail after season 5. It has a satisfying ending there. You can just stop. But it's an excellent show. It's about two brothers that hunt supernatural shit. Pretty straightforward. And the show has a really good sense of wit to it, a really good sense of humor. It goes a lot further in terms of horror than a lot of shows of its kind do. And at the same time, it's always very, very tongue-in-cheek, very witty, quick humor. Sometimes it borderline spoofs horror, you know what I mean? Like, it almost reaches that point of being a parody. It comes across as much more of a love letter to horror than a spoof, if you see what I'm saying. It's much more in the vein of, like, Cabin in the Woods than Scary Movie.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and it's a damn good show. I definitely recommend checking it out.
Right on.
I tried to watch one episode, I got scared, never seen it again.
Good Lord.
Well, that's a recommendation for me. That works for me. So thank you for that, Jamill. Way to co-sign. Well, gentlemen, I like to recommend, and this won't come as a shock to either one of you guys, One Punch Man.
Oh.
Yay!
I caught up on One Punch Man. It's a strange world. Well, duh, it's anime. It started in 2009. It went viral. It got up to like nearly 8 million hits as of 2012. I started watching it like a week ago. It's streaming on Hulu, and there are currently 7 episodes online. It's a weird anime world where cities are regularly attacked by these huge, horrible, these demonic monsters. And our hero, Saitama, he's this weird-looking dude you wouldn't associate with being a hero. He's a bald guy, average height, average weight. He's got a yellow jumpsuit and a cape. Unintimidating. He's got a blank, oblivious look on his face. He rarely seems to be aware of what's going on around him, but he's absolutely aware. He just doesn't care because he is the One Punch Man, and his fighting prowess is such that nothing can hurt him. So it doesn't matter if he's paying any attention because nothing can hurt him anyway. And it's really, really funny. It's actually a parody of most of the action-style animes and mangas that are out, where your hero trains and then fights a different villain after each story arc and has to train to get stronger and stronger. This starts at the opposite end, where he's already at max power, and the whole thing is our hero is just bored. Just bored. And he doesn't get any credit for anything he does. Other heroes get the credit. Everybody in the city hates him. He doesn't care. He's just looking, and he's just really worried that his overwhelming boredom is crossing over into other aspects of his life. The only thing he lives for is getting decent sales at the grocery store. It's insanely entertaining. This guy who's this one Godzilla-sized person who he's fighting, and this guy is like smacking him around. He's like, I'm going to power up to my ultimate form, and once I do, I'll go on a rampage that'll last a week. I'll be killing people till next Saturday. And our hero thinks to himself, oh my God, he's going to go on a rampage till next Saturday. Next Saturday? Well, that means today is Saturday. And if today is Saturday, that means I'm missing the sale at the grocery store. And then he socks the dude and literally splatters him across the wall with a nonchalant backwards like slap. And he just splatters dude.
That's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it. Please.
I gotta admit,
check
that's
out One
funny as
Punch
hell.
Man.
The
The whole series is hilarious.
You have described it.
I know you said it was one joke. It was a one-joke show, Kyle, but it's so many jokes that build off of that one. It's really, really funny. And then he joins the Hero Association. Then he's ranked really, really low after obliterating the test. It's because he failed the written part. So it's actually a very funny show, and I recommend it. And I haven't gotten into the manga, but from what I understand, the manga is even more in-depth and even sillier. So please, watch that.
Let's say this, Jack.
Will do.
You know, I think most anime is hot street trash. I think you convinced me might check this one out.
I hope I did. I'd like to recommend stuff I think you'll like, Jamill, because I recommended Death Note for you. Me and Kyle recommended that. You dug that. And so we'll try not to recommend anything stupid. We told you Sword Art Online is also a pretty decent anime that I think you'll like.
The
it speaks to your hobbies.
Weird as shit, but it's good.
Yeah. But it does speak to your hobbies too, Jamill, so I think you'll dig it. And ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls and children of all ages, I believe that wraps our wonderful, incredible podcast for this day. You should always check us out on the Supernaut website. The Supernaut Network is awesome. And this week on IAB's Shelf, he takes a look at two overlooked 80s classics, Ivan Passer's Cutter's Way and Steve DeJarnett's Miracle Mile. And check out I Am Better's reconsideration of these fine yet underrated films. Also on the site, Matt reviews Kurt Cobain's Montage of Heck, the home recordings. Check out all the good stuff we have on the Supernaut Network Pop Culture Junk Drawer, and follow us on Facebook, comment on the site, and tell me how I'm wrong yet again. Give us a bunch of stars on iTunes. Tell all your friends. We are the saviors of the universe. Remember us fondly. Jamill, thanks for coming on board. Elle, glad you're here. Kyle, thanks again for hanging out. We are the saviors of the universe. I am the Nacogdoches DJ Jack Random, and for Kyle Fulton, we are out.
Robots never lie. You are perspiring. And your heart is beating 174 times per minute.